Konnichiwa, hello. Welcome to Motegi in Japan, to a very wet circuit, ready for the races of Japan. 2 races for the weekend here, and finally the wind has dropped, but the rain has not yet stopped. It's been raining consistently all day long. It was pretty heavy, about the heaviest it's been all day about 30 minutes ago, but now as the cars head out on track, it is just the steady downpour that has been the constant association with the cars on this track all weekend long. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Wherever you are, thank you for joining us. Martin Haven alongside me, Matt Neal, in the warm and the dry. And Matt, never a day as a commentator, and I'm glad I'm not a cameraman. You're either burned like a crisp, blown off your perch, or soaked to the skin, and quite often a combination of all 3 in the same day. But as in China a couple of weeks ago, the weather is not going to be anybody's friend here today, I don't think.
That's right. I mean, as a driver, you always yearn to be in the cars. You always think, oh, I wish I was there. And we saw China 2 weeks ago, and I actually was pleased I wasn't in the car. And it's the same this weekend. The conditions look dreadful out there, you know, with aquaplaning and puddles and rain never stopping. So they've got their work cut out this weekend.
I am down here with Tom Chilton, who starts on the front row of the grid. Rather nice spot to be, particularly in weather like this. Now, obviously, the line is different in the dry to the wet, but how good is this circuit for grip levels?
Compared to our last race in the wet at Ningbo in China, I'd say this circuit's very good at drainage, and it's got a lot of grip in the wet. But because this circuit's a lot older, there's actually a lot more rubber on the line, on the racing line, so there's a lot more grip offline. Going into turn 1, I'm up the inside, so it's going to be a bit of a fight. I might go in faster, but then the guy on the outside is starting first, Gleason, Kevin. He might have a bit more grip on the outside, so it's going to be very exciting first few corners. I just want to say, Tiago, sorry you're not here, mate. You're on the helmet. I hope you get better and we see you soon.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
Tiago Montero to bring you up to speed. Those of you who've not been keeping up with news from Japan, has not been past fit to race here after missing the races in China, ironically because the Honda team were discovered to, we'll come back to that in a minute.
Grab a speedy word with Ted before he heads out in P5, 3rd row of the grid. What started off as looking like a very strong weekend for Volvo seems to be a little bit trickier maybe than you first anticipated, and perhaps a little bit off the pace. What's going on from your opinion?
Well, as we are now getting ready for the race, that's the qualifying. Just look in the back, focus on the race. Feels good. Sorry about that, I had in the radio. No, but I will just keep pushing now. Now we're starting the new paper. We just go.
Good to hear it.
Sorry, we are not sorry.
Hopefully you're hearing that a little better than we are. Ted Björk also being distracted by the radio there. So we're getting ready for our races with Kevin Gleason, the man on pole position in his Lada, ahead of Tom Chilton. Jan Erlache's Lada lining up 3rd, Mehdi Banani 4th in his Citroën, and then Ted Björk in 5th position. He missed out on Q3, the only Volvo to do so. In 6th position will be Esteban Guerreri in the Honda, normally driven by Tiago Montero. Nestor Girolami and Norbert Mikulits round out the top 10. Then Norbert Naj and John Philippi ahead of former world champion Rob Huff and Tom Coronel, both of whom missed the top 12, start 13th and 14th for both races, although they've been promoted a row, as has everybody else, because there's been a new engine for Ryo Michigami, a new car for him this weekend. Nicky Katzberg having a precautionary engine change after qualifying, so he has been moved to the back of the grid as well. But Kevin Gleason, the first American to start on pole position for a World Touring Car race. Nicky Katzberg, final row of the grid for the man who was in the fastest Volvo in qualifying. Engine change has put him to the back of the field. And joining him on the last row is Ryo Michigami. Michigami's car from China is not here. It was due to be flown into Japan to be rebuilt, but there was an embargo on flying large goods out of China after the race. It just happened to coincide with some Chinese embargo, and so they have had to build him a new car, essentially out of a test car that was flown in by Yas. The engine was already in the car, and therefore not the one that Rio used in China. So that is an engine change, and that has dropped him to the back of the grid. For he and for Katzberg, though, just for this race, as we go into the main race, they will resume at the positions they had after qualifying, so both will be in the top 5. But that moves half the field further forward, so Felipe de Sousa not the last spot on the grid in his RC Motorsport Lada. And Matt Neal, the rain has definitely eased up since, well, even half an hour ago when it was coming down absolute stair rods. Not exactly a balmy sunny day out, but there have definitely been heavier rain conditions, so hopefully we'll actually get a race underway without the use of a safety car.
Yeah, it makes a change to have it not falling from the sky. It's just stopped for the first time in about 2 days, so it's as you say, it will make driving conditions marginally easier, but there is a lot of water on the circuit, a lot of standing water around, water running off the side bankings from the circuit on across. So even though the drainage is good at Motegi, you know, the standing water is going to be an issue, which they're going to be hitting, and obviously in the spray in the pack, the cars coming through like Michigami and Katzberg, it's going to be seeing those points of danger, which they're not going to be able to pick up.
Really tricky, isn't it? It's going to be tricky too for those making their first starts. You just saw the Campos Chevrolet of Chris Richard. He's the man who won the European Touring Car Cup in a Rickley Motorsport Honda, and his prize drive was a World Touring Car drive. He is in that car this weekend, and its normal incumbent Esteban Guerreri is not in a Chevrolet. We'll get to him in a moment. Tom Coronel is in his regular Chevrolet, had a bit of a nightmare in qualifying. Wiper failed at one stage. That wasn't the issue though, because it was working when we got into the final part of Q1, but neither he nor Rob Huff made it into the fast 12. They start 11th and 12th on the opening race grid, only because 2 cars have been pushed to the back of grid from in front of them. So the All-Inkle Motorsport, Munich Motorsport Citroen had a bit of a struggle, as did the Royal Motorsport Chevrolet, just in front of Rob Huff, and this underlines how much Huff struggled in the wet. Is the Sebastian Lowe Racing Citroen of John Philippi, and Philippi is the least well positioned of the 3 Sebastian Lowe Racing cars. So in fact Huffy is the slowest Citroen in the rain, and that's got to be a worry for him and for engineer Marco Calovolo. They do need to do something about that for this race.
It's quite bizarre, because Huffy was on fire in China 2 weeks ago in very similar conditions, and it went from by far the quickest Citroen to by far the slowest Citroen. But in all fairness to Jean Philippi, he held his own last time out. So he slipped back through the course of the race, but he was there and he put up a good fight, and he held his own in very tricky conditions. So it's no surprise to see him up there. But the 2 big scalps who we thought were going to be right at the sharp end was Huffy, and local knowledge for Tom Coronel as well. So they were surprise ones to go out in Q1.
Yeah, Daniel Nance, we just saw in the Zengo Motorsport Honda, like all the other Hondas, he lost all the points that were scored for him and for the team in China, because post-race scrutineering found that one of the Hondas was using non-homologated parts in its fuel injection system. Then turned out that all the Hondas were, so they were all excluded, and that's really skewed the Manufacturers' Championship standings in favour of Volvo. Norman Mikelic, the fastest man in qualifying, starts in 8th. Nestor Girolami, who was pipped by him in the qualifying runs, starts in 7th position. And as we get into the top 6, here is Thiago Montero's car. This is the only Honda, in fact, that was in China. The other 2 cars, one came flown in from Yas Sport, which was the European test car, and one was built up here in Japan. So the last 2 weeks have been full on for the Yas Honda team. They've basically had to build 2 racing cars from bare shells, or nearly bare shells. So they've been working hard to do that. But Thiago Montero's car being driven by Esteban Guerreri, and this is a late change for Guerreri. He flew to Japan believing he was going to be be racing the Campos Chevrolet as per usual. Landed to be told that, in fact, he'd been asked if he wouldn't mind driving the Honda. Thank you very much, please. Thank you, yeah, thank you, thank you. So he is, and has done a very good job with it in qualifying as well. Ted Bjerg struggled a little bit in the final stages of qualifying when it was at its wettest, so he'll be a little happier, I think, with the weather now, because he didn't make it into the top 5. He starts 5th place on the opening race grid, 4th place on the opening race grid for Mehdi Benani. Again, he was just outside the top 5 that go through into Q3. The Moroccan driver didn't look entirely as comfortable in his car for much of the qualifying session as the other Citroën drivers, but then in the end actually got it all together and was only the second of the Citroëns in the field. Jan Erlaché again, for much of free practice and qualifying, looked like he was struggling to find the pace, and then bang, when it counted, oh, actually he had this in his back pocket. So probably, you would assume, in both cases, his and Benani's quite a lot of work going in on race setup and dialing the car in, and then going out and doing the job actually when it counted.
Yeah, the Lada, excuse me, the Lada has been historically good in the tricky conditions, in the wet conditions, when you need a little bit of a softer car. But Erlaché, he's been spectacular all year, hasn't he? In, you know, you look at him around the Nürburgring when the thing's handling like an animal, and
he's wrestling.
He's no less committed around there or anywhere. So exactly. he's been a real asset to the championship.
And our first ever American pole sitter, Kevin Gleeson, ended up in 10th position in the second qualifying session, and that means he starts the opening race on the DHL pole. Tom Chilton alongside him, and that'll be the worry for Gleeson. He's not as familiar with his car as Chilton is with his in any conditions, never mind in the wet. But Kevin Gleeson does have the advantage, at least, of starting with nobody in front of him. And once they get underway, he and Chilton will have a clear view of the first corner. Behind them, it becomes increasingly difficult. Jan Erlaché in the second Lada, behind his Lada co-driver, teammate, and then Mehdi Benani. Ted Bjerg and Esteban Guerreri, the first of the factory teams, with Nestor Girolami and Norbert Mikulits. So it's Volvo, Honda, and another Honda, Norbert Naj, and John Philippi, ahead of Rob Huff and Tom Coronel. These guys all promoted from 7th on the grid up. Then Chris Richard and Sultan Szabo ahead of Felipe de Souza, with Ria Michigami and Nicky Katzberg on the final 2 spots on the grid after engine changes.
Now it's interesting the politics here, because we've got 2 Volvos and 2 Hondas. 1 Honda, 1 Volvo in the middle of the grid, and wanting to
cars on the wet formation lap here at Twin Ring Motegi in Japan. The circuit designed, built and owned by Honda, with a massive Honda Motorsport Museum here. The Twin Ring name comes from this road circuit and the IndyCar oval circuit, under which they pass twice, once to come back into the inner part enclosed by the speedway, and wants to go back out between corners 5 and 6. So Twin Ring Motegi, for the 3rd year in a row, is the venue for the races of Japan. It's the 3rd different venue that we've raced at in the decade we've been coming to Japan. Started in Okayama, and then 2 varieties of Suzuka circuit, the shorter circuit, and then the full Grand Prix circuit. And now here we are again at Motegi. Norbert Mikulits won the first race here in Motegi back in 2013 in his Honda, and the first Honda win in Japan. And he won the opening race here last year as well, but I think he's unlikely to win this year in the opener. Cars forming up on the grid in wet conditions, but we do not require the safety car to get the field underway. The rain has retrenched itself a little bit and has lessened. The circuit is absolutely soaking. Kevin Gleeson on driver's left on the front row of the grid. The American driver in the RC Motorsport Lada sits on pole Tom Chilton alongside him in the Chevrolet, and then Yann-Air Lachey in his Lada and Mehdi Benani in his Citroen on row 2. Championship leader Ted Bjerk starts in 5th. Nicky Katzberg, Rio Michigami at the back of the grid after engine changes. A very long hold, waiting for lights. Green flag is being waved like Billy-O at the back of the grid. And finally the lights come on and off they go very quickly indeed. Caught me by surprise, caught Kevin Gleeson by surprise. That was a very bizarre starting sequence. Tom Chilton with the inside line into the first corner. Can he hold it together? Gleeson spins or doesn't. He keeps his foot in and just about hangs on to it. Matt Neal, first rule in front-wheel drive, particularly in low-grip situation, is keep the front wheels pointing in the right direction and hope that the back catches up with you.
Gleeson half spins and then does really well, but it's Air Lachey who's on the move. He made a cracking start from row 2, almost made it through, but once the momentum got going, he couldn't make the progress. But
one of the Hondas going outside of Volvo, and it's not Norbert Mikulits, so that means it's Esteban Guerrero. Or is that Mikulits who's got by? It is Mikulits who's got by, I think. So Norbert Mikulits up to 4th place between the Volvos. Then the other Castrol Honda car, Esteban Guerrero, being eased back slightly, and that's Kevin Gleeson in the middle of the field, going very slowly indeed as they go out under the bridge between corners 5 and 6. So on board with Ted Bjerk, and lots of spray being thrown up. Nicky Katzberg starting at the back of the field. He was last on the grid. Through past Zoltan Szabo goes Michigami, and on board now with Norbert Mikulits, and right in front of him is Mehdi Benani's Citroen C-Elysée. So Tom Chilton with the lead, Yann-Air Lachey in 2nd place, and everybody sort of bouncing from puddle to puddle, Matt, because they're using bits of the track now that they've probably not used at all in qualifying or free practice.
Mikulits is looking for a way through. He's looking for a way through. He's the only one of the factory Hondas to be running on brand new rubber, so he will have an advantage in the opening laps, and it's whether he can capitalise on that.
Now that is Esteban Guerrero in between the two Volvos. So Guerrero in the factory Honda, using his familiar number 86, but in the car that's normally number 18 for Thiago Montero. So Norby didn't make a good getaway. It was Guerrero that was going around the outside of Nestor Girolami.
Now Guerrero needs to get in front of Bjork to try and take some points off him, so that's going to be, I'm sure Jas will be on the radio to him.
But he's a racer. Jas won't need to be on the radio to him. He'll want to get in front. Guerrero might feel that he's got a car that's quick enough to beat the two in front, and certainly in terms of qualifying pace, he absolutely did have. There's Rio Michigami in the grey and red and white Honda. So the Japanese working his way forward a little. Chilton still leads from Air Lachey.
You can see the spray down there and the difficulty for the driver's seat. It will still be a very slim line through a lot of these corners, so it's making progress with the visibility and the we can see here.
Pick a line, any line, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Mikulits can't see around the outside of Benani, but he's going for it anyway, trying to find a grip around the outside of the corner. And has he got the traction? Can't see Benani. Yeah, can see Benani in the mirror now, so he has got by him. So
you're in the lap of the gods there, because if Benani slides wide, he's into you. So there's a lot of trust he put in Benani there.
I think he probably deserves that trust these days. Mehdi Benani has become quite the driver in these cars. Ted Bjerk in the first of the Volvos then, and Esteban Guerrero almost a victim of the turn 9 gravel trap there. He managed to get the car around the corner, and behind in the spray it does look as though Norbert Mikulits was, well, he wasn't quite close enough to try and move on the second car of Nestor Girolami. So Girolami, the second of the blue Polestar Cyan Racing Volvos. He's in 5th place, Norbert Mikulits in 6th. Norby started in 8th. So who has he got by? Well, they've got by Kevin Gleeson, haven't they? And Norby's got by Mehdi Benani as well. Benani started in 4th place, Gleeson in 1st, and they've both been pushed down the order. And in the gloom, Ted Bjerk looking back towards his pursuer.
Yeah, my confusion, I thought it was Mikulits who'd made better ground earlier on in the race, but it's not. It's Guerrero, wasn't it? So it's Michelin needs to try and utilise those new tyres of his, because that's going to be that's an ace card up his sleeve. So Guerreri needs to get in front of that Bjork Volvo and hold the Volvos up if he can.
There's your pole sitter, Kevin Gleeson, ahead of Rob Huff and Ryo Michigami. So Rob Huff 9th, Ryo Michigami 10th. Rob Huff started in 12th place and Ryo Michigami in 16th. So the Japanese driver has made better progress so far from the start than Huffy has. And up behind him comes Nicky Katzberg. Katzberg down the inside of Michigami. He does make contact, he spins the Japanese and gets clumped as a result. Now that's not going to play well because there was no need to do that. And he had a long, slow look down the inside and then realised that he couldn't get his nose out of the way. Visibility, lateral visibility, look, you can see how misted up the sides of the cars are already. Michigami may not have seen him coming, and he just tried to get out of it, didn't he? But just made contact there. Katzberg trying to... He's not a punt-to-pass driver, and he was trying to get out of the hole he dug for himself there. Got clipped by Michigami's nose as he went by, but it looks as though he's okay. That's the sort of secondary tap often that takes off your back wheel, isn't it? But I think they both survived. However, Michigami has lost ground, and Katzberg has made it up. I sense a penalty may be on the way for Nicky Katzberg.
Yeah, unfortunately, that sort of spells out Katzberg's year, doesn't he? He's been super quick and...
Yeah, second fastest in qualifying, fastest through most of qualifying, then an engine change sees him 17th on the grid. He said, that's the sort of year I've been having. He is, in fact, the de facto second place man in the championship, and off goes Ted Bjork. Was that leader?
No, that was Girolami.
Was it? Okay, so Nesta Girolami drops off. And around him comes Norby, and he gets turned into a spin by the Volvo, and that was much less cut and dried. But where was Girolami thinking that the Honda was going to go if he turned in towards the tyres? Crikey, Norby, that was close. So Ryo Michigami now goes by Norbert Mikulits. Mikulits in 4th place in the championship. He was only 8.5 points behind Katzberg.
On board with Michelitz, yeah, let's have a look at this.
Well,
You'd be pretty upset from that angle, wouldn't you?
Yeah. You know, he's got halfway alongside, he's going around the outside. I'm not sure where Nesta Girolami thought he was going to go. That 11, 12, 13, 14 sector is a very sort of straight-liney, chicane-y element, and making it more of a corner once you're committed going in is very difficult indeed, I would say. Let's have a listen.
Yeah, we can see that, Norby.
Yeah, of course, he doesn't know what the TV cameras are watching. They could easily be watching the leader or something else that he can't see. Because, I mean...
Girolami in the Volvo factory is just a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. Yes, but that
can penalise him.
Yeah, but that doesn't intimate any ill will on his part. I think again, you know, in these conditions, that was a pass that would never have started in the dry, and it wouldn't have come to that in the dry. It's because the grip levels are lower and the speeds are lower that actually, perversely, the racetrack is a little bit wider.
Chilton's checking out at the front.
He is, isn't he? Jan Ehrlichet 3 seconds behind. The Lada not quite the force that he might have hoped it would be. Blimey, do you see Ted Bjork's car just writhe under him down the straight there? There's definitely still a river of water there somewhere. In fact, several rivers of water.
It's whether Ehrlichet, I mean, is holding Bjork up. Could Bjork go faster? Making roads on Chilton?
He needs to start showing his nose to the Lada driver if he wants to. This is where the incident happened, just here with Girolami, and you can see...
It's a one-line.
It really is that last chicane. It is a proper chicane. It's not two corners. It is a proper chicane. And once you're committed to going in, you're either going to hit the big tyre stacks and destroy the front of the car, or you're going to stay on your line. And I'm afraid, I don't know whether the stewards will actually get round to making a decision during the race, but I would suggest there may be 2 Volvos with drive-through penalties as a result of those contacts. Don't normally see cars being spun off track without anything happening, which is not to wish them any ill will, but they were both the the hammer to the nail, if you like.
The main Volvo that matters, Ted Bjork, is in a strong podium position.
Yeah, Bjork in third place, might well be looking to try and move up to second as the race progresses. Battle for second place in twin ring Motegi, Jan Erlaché in the red, white and blue Lada. And he is being pursued hotly by Ted Bjork, and you do sense that Erlaché might be the stopper in the bottle here, because behind the Volvo, just a couple of car lengths back, is Esteban Guerreri, the Argentine, in the first of the Hondas. He's the best of the Hondas at the moment. So at the moment we've got Citroen, Lada, Volvo, Honda. Now, if only there were all four factory teams, we really would have a competitive championship on our hands.
Yeah, you say that, Martin, but Guerreri isn't being able to make any inroads into Bjork, so Erlaché can't be holding him up that much. Will Michigami get his nose on the inside of Huff? Not quite.
Will, and Huff will hold a constant radius around the corner, but Michigami just couldn't find the traction, could he? Michigami wants to move up the order. What he wants to do as well, Matt, is keep the car in one piece, because for him, by far the more important race will be the main race, where he's starting at the front of the grid.
Rio, let Nobby pass. Miguel-San is behind you, let him pass.
Yeah, Nobby's caught up to Michigami.
Yeah. And so Rio will happily sacrifice this race or a position here to let Norby by in terms of the championship, because Rio's chances of winning the championship really are based on everybody else retiring. He has a grand total of just 2 points to his name so far this season.
Or was that Michigami going for a gap, or is he just...
Well, he's again got the tight line inside Rob Huff. We saw in qualifying that Huff's Chevrolet Citroen is not quite the force it should be. A lot more spray, a lot more gloom in the air here. Is the cloud starting to roll back, the mist again?
Yeah, unfortunately for Norby, even if Michigami moves over, Huff will not be such an easier scalp.
Wow. Where's the visibility gone that we had at the beginning of the race? Michigami around the outside of Rob Huff, and another contact. And that time, I'm afraid you can't really lay that at Huff's door. He closes the door gradually on Norby to stop him coming by. Michigami biting off perhaps a little more than there was there in terms of room to go around.
Well, I don't know. I think that was Michigami using his guile around the outside, but and Huff sliding into him. So it's a similar one that we've seen with Katzberg and Co.
Right. You know, he's tremendously wet and slippery. Drive-through penalty, the first one comes now. This is the first of the incidents. Nestor Girolami, don't forget, he tagged Rio Michigami into a half spin, so a drive-through for him.
No, Girolami was Michelitz, wasn't it?
Okay, so who...
Here comes Michelitz.
Who was Michigami with then?
Michigami was with...
63.
Was
That's
with Katzberg.
Nicky Katzberg. Yeah, you're right. So it's Katzberg gets a penalty as well. And Norby on the outside of Rob Huff at the end of the straight. It's Pete.
Huff's running in wide.
Billy big brakes, and Norby with two wheels in the gravel, trying to stay on the outside so that he had the inside line here. Didn't work. Nearly worked. Huff using all the road. Huff really defending hard with the Citroen. It's not an attacking weapon this weekend, is it? By any stretch of the imagination.
He's definitely driving a very wide car at the minute.
Well, he's having to, isn't he? Because he's just being beaten up by everybody that comes up behind him.
The trouble is, for Michelitz, every lap on every corner and every lap lost is the others are getting further and further up the road. But Katzberg's next one up the road, another 4 seconds, but he could be having a penalty. Oh, here you go. Yeah, Michigami turned across him.
Yeah, he was trying to make a bit more room for himself, and Huff was trying not to let him, really, because like Norby the subsequent lap, if he keeps there around the outside where there's probably as much grip as there is on a tighter line, then you've got the line exiting under the speedway. And this time Norby's got a bit of drive. He's on the curbs. He's trying to go the long way round.
Oh, it's dangerous going on the curbs.
That is brave stuff. And Norby has the grip, and the Citroen doesn't, but can he slow it down just enough? Never mind them. Has he stayed on or has he gone off?
It's big respect from both those two.
Yeah.
Fair play. Big
And
respect.
Huff making it as hard as he can without actually nudging him off the road.
Now can Michelitz make inroads up to Katzberg?
I think the rain is getting harder again. There is more spray in the air on the longer, faster parts of the track. It is definitely much harder to see. Now, how much can Norby escape? Girolami, drive-through penalty, currently lying in 5th. Katzberg with a drive-through, currently lying in 8th. Here's the view exiting the final corner and down the pit straight from Ted Björk's Volvo. The passenger seat, if you were in it, you would probably have your hands over your eyes and not be wanting to watch very much. The car slithering around underneath you as some Swedish nutcase tries to kill you at every corner. Through comes the first of the Volvos to service penalty, Nicky Katzberg.
Both of them.
Oh, both, yes. Girolami has gone in and out as well. Returns behind Huff, but in front of Michigami. So he's going to have to go by at least one more Volvo. And there's another Honda going around the outside, and that's Daniel Nudge.
Yeah, throws Katzberg right back. Snakes and ladders for him, isn't it? Throws him right back down to where he started on the grid.
Now that we've got a 3-car battle for second. Tom Chilton's gone. But Jan Erlaché in second place, the white car, then Ted Björk, the blue car, and Esteban Guerreri, the other white car, the Honda with the red and green. So Erlaché's Lada, Ted Björk's Volvo, and Guerreri was sort of with them and kind of gets dropped depending on which corner they're coming out of.
Björk's looking for ways round.
Yep.
He's definitely looking. Seems to have better traction off the corners than the Lada. Whether that's because Erlaché's taken a slightly tighter, more defensive line, just then struggling to get the power down. This is bringing Guerreri into the fight, though, which
yeah, but every time
interesting.
they get on the straight, they leave him behind. Ooh. Ted Björk's not quite got the grip that we've seen from the Hondas, has he? Because he's looking at doing exactly the same thing around the outside of turn 11 of the end of the back straight, and it's just not working for him. Here comes Nestor Girolami, blue number 61 Volvo, closing up behind the black car of Rob Huff. Munich Motorsports. Citroen struggling for grip here.
Yeah, you can see it, front end going, rear end going.
Yeah.
Huff is struggling like hell in that thing. Volvo just drives at the inside.
And the problem is here, it's so sort of undramatic, it's just not gripping at either end. And again, Ted Björk's really pushing hard. Erlaché leans on him.
That's going to allow the Honda through. They'll get a run on him.
Björk's still not got the Lada in front, so Björk goes through, and here comes Guerreri. So Erlaché did not manage to counter-attack Guerreri down the inside. He's got the grip. Can he keep it tight on the exit, or does Ted Björk get to cut back under him? Erlaché is still there. This is 5 into 6. This is the right-hander. And, a third Volvo and a Honda make contact, and Erlaché goes back into second, or does he? How did Guerreri keep that together? Again, rule 1, Matt. He kept his right foot buried on the throttle and trusted to steering and luck.
He doesn't want to let Björk... Oh, he left the door open.
Björk lunges to the inside. And Guerreri with grip on the outside of the corner. He didn't want to be on the racing line. So he got off the racing line, and that leaves the door open. Björk comes down the back straight. But Guerreri's giving as good as he gets. So down into turn 10. And then the long back straight. Here we go. And Guerreri's already picked his side. That's the battle he's going to fight with the inside line, and he's going to let him go deep into the corner.
That Volvo does seem to have some good squirt down the straight, doesn't he, now?
He does, doesn't he? But look at the Honda. The Honda's got the top-end legs to get there, and Guerrieri denies him anything except for the curb. So Guerrieri up to third.
In there. He's going to be fuming.
Do you know, OK, penalty or not penalty?
No, I think that was that was fair dues. That was good racing. That was
good. That's my opinion as well. I think that little shake of the head from Ivan Muller, I think that was exactly the question he was being asked. Was that, does he deserve a penalty? No, I don't think so either. I still think
Björk's going to get him.
Oh, Guerrieri likes the outside, all the way around the outside of the corner. Let's listen to Volvo.
Yeah, but Volvo's got...
Come and gone? No, we haven't got it. OK, sorry about that.
Guerrieri's having to fight every inch of the way for this one.
Well, listen, Björk's fighting to win the championship. He's not fighting Guerrieri to win the championship, but he's fighting everyone to win the championship. Third doesn't work if he could be second.
Okay, what should I do?
Ted, you're a racer. Keep racing. Just keep racing. If they penalise you, it's unfair, but they penalise you, keep racing.
Yeah, but Ted, you've got points in the bag.
Yeah.
Unless the door opens, shadow him, and if the door opens, you take it. If it doesn't, don't force the issue.
Is Guerrieri a championship rival? Realistically, no, he's not.
Is he dangerous?
Keep going.
Could be.
Yeah, could be. If you can get by El Lachet, do. If you can't, OK, third will do. Fourth will do.
Quids in, all your championship rivals are miles away at the minute.
Listen, he didn't score any points in qualifying. He didn't score in the opening race in China 2 weeks ago. He's got to make sure he scores something in this race. Can't be racking up a row of zeros and expect to be a champion. You know, the old rule of thumb, more than 3 zeros, you're not going to be champion. I think that's going to still apply. Maybe 4, if you're lucky, because it's such a tight sort of point spread. Huff again with the Volvo around the outside. Huff's not got the speed there, but he's going to nudge Girolami off anyway.
Oh,
do you know, it's just as well.
That Volvo's got some.
It's got traction off the corner.
And,
you know, we heard how much the Citroens were struggling off that corner. I mean, everybody is, but the Citroens are really struggling off that corner.
Well, that was always the Citroen's advantage.
Yeah, that's when Citroen had all the notes on the Citroen from all their testing and their extensive research, and that hasn't necessarily been passed on down the line. It hasn't bled down the food chain. Girolami made short work of that, didn't he? Here comes Michigami. Can he do the same? Because basically Huff is kind of a chicane. They have to get by. With no disrespect to Rob, there's the Munich Motorsport team. They have not been able to find a setup that works for them or for him on the car. Combined thoughts of Rob and Marco Colovolo and Dominic Greiner has not come up with a car that's got a setup. Tom Chilton's car clearly does. His best lap of 209.3. 2 other cars have lapped in the 209s. Kevin Gleeson in the Lada and Norbert Mikulits.
You know, that lap off Chilton's half a second clear of anybody in as a fastest race. Oh, Michigami going for the inside, backs out.
Yeah, and up behind him comes Nicky Katzberg. Katzberg's got the run on him. Through he goes into 6. Now Michigami could. No, he's not on the out. Crikey, look at the speed that the Volvo went by. Well, there is second place, the Lada, 68, Janne Lachet. Final lap of the race, Tom Chilton is 13, count them, seconds clear. Ooh, Björk and Guerrieri. OK, the answer, Ted, to what should I do is don't hit the flipping Honda. Goodness.
Chilton taking it nice and easy.
He's not, he's pushing it as hard as he can now.
So he's bringing it home.
209.5 last time round. Checkered flag is out. The second win of the year for Tom Chilton and Sebastian Loeb Racing. Their cars were first out of the crates at the circuit and first across the line at the end of the opening race. Janne Lachet will take another second place finish. He was second in the opening race in China, second in the opening race here, ahead of Esteban Guerrieri and Ted Björk. Then Mehdi Banani in no man's land. Kevin Gleeson in 6th. Norby 7th. Nesta Girolami 8th. Rob Huff 9th. And Rio Michigami 11th as Katzberg gets him at the line. No, Michigami just held off Katzberg at the line in that flurry of metal, fast-moving metal. John Philippi was in there as well, so from Girolami, Huff, Michigami, Katzberg and Philippi, they were covered by about a second at the line. But a very comfortable race winner in the opening race here in Japan is Tom Chilton. Chevrolet into Parc Fermé. He is the winner of our opening race here in Japan. Started on the outside of the front row of the grid, and with the weird start that caught out everybody, but more particularly Kevin Gleeson, Chilton made the best of it. He just had his nose in front into the first corner, and nobody else got a look in after that. Matt, you know, this is all part of what driving racing cars is about. If an opportunity comes, you can't let it slip through your fingers.
Well, yeah, Tom drove well there, to be fair. You know, he started on the front row, got a good start, a good solid start. Air Lachey had a run at him, but didn't have the legs to get him down into. And then once he was gone, he was gone. They started scrapping a bit behind him. Air Lachey held them up for a wee bit, but to be fair to Tom, he had the legs on them all, clear air, and I mean, the boy is fast.
Well, he's down with Alex Le Gui. Let's hear from our opening race winner.
Oh my goodness me, Tom Chilton, you were lightning off the start line, and then that was it. You kept yourself out of mischief for the entire race. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I was actually really nervous after my practice start in the pit lane and the start of the green flag lap, because I had so much wheel spin. Kevin disappeared, and I was like, oh no. I was like, guys, this is the problem, should we do this? And they're like, yes, we need to adjust. So for the first time we tried something new, and it was perfect, like absolutely perfect. And you know, in this racing it's all about the start. And I turned into the corner, and then as I was turning in, I drifted, literally had a big old drift across the dry line, which is full of rubber. And then from there on, I just had to keep my nose clean. And I was just saying on the radio on the way in, thank you so much to all the team, because I was doing every lap time within the same 1/10 of a second, which means the car's perfectly set up because it's so consistent, it's so easy to drive. And that was so much fun to drive. Thank you.
It's great to hear, and great for the Independence Trophy as well.
Very good for the championship, yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good for him in his battle with Mehdi Banani and Rob Huff, both of whom struggled a little more. So Tom Chilton winning from Jan Erlaché and Esteban Guerreri. That is your podium. Citroën, Lada and Honda. Ted Bjerk in 4th. So he does at least score in the opening race. And then the top 10 rounded out by Nicky Katzberg, Rio Michigami. Nesta Girolami 11th, after he and Katzberg both had drive-throughs, each for contact with a Honda. And all of our starters finished the race, unlike in China, where only 7 cars finished the race, where I think we have an all-time low in terms of World Touring Car finishers. So, Drivers' Championship as Ted Bjerk outscoring Nicky Katzberg. Norbert Mikulits as well loses ground to the championship leader. Our opening race here in Japan. Is it me, or is the rain lessening but the gloom is descending deeper? In third place we will have Esteban Guerreri, his first ever drive as a factory Honda driver, and he's on the podium here at Honda's own circuit, Motegi, in Japan. I don't just mean it's in Japan, I mean Honda built the track and owns the track. And in the window above, you just saw the Volvo pressman opening his laptop, so I expect to see tweets and post-race news immediately. Such a late arrival, Esteban Guerreri in an entirely unbranded, apart from one logo, race suit. Second place for Yann Lachey in the RC Motorsport Lada. Another good race from the young Alsatian. And for the second time this year, Tom Chilton a race winner, and bang, suddenly he is in the championship hunt.
From Sebastian Loeb Racing, the winner of the WTCC trophy is Tom Chilton.
So Tom, the winner of the WTCC trophy. However, Tom was in 6th position before this race in the championship. He's now up to 4th. Thiago Monteiro, it will surprise you to learn, having missed 3 races in a row now, is still 2nd in the championship.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
And now, the French national anthem for Sebastian Loeb Racing. Presenting our 3rd position trophy to Esteban Guerreri is Mr. Hidnori Sasai, member of organising committee.
So Tom Chilton moves up to 4th in the championship. Ted Bjerg extends his advantage in the standings over Thiago Monteiro to 15.5 points from 3.5 points. Thiago, though, still 2nd in the championship. 3rd in the championship, 29 points behind now, is Nicky Katzberg. 4th, 32 points behind, so 3 points behind Katzberg is Tom Chilton in a privately entered car. In 5th place is Norbert Mikulits, who is 1.5 points behind Chilton in the standings. And then Mehdi Benani in 6th, who's 41.5 points off the championship lead. But Tom, with that win, 32 points off the lead. That's a win, a pole, and a 10th place in the main race. So that puts him in the frame, and not just as an independent championship contender, he's a championship contender.
He's in the frame as much as anybody else is at the moment.
I know, the frame gets bigger with every race.
And the one we thought was going to be in the frame was Rob Huff, and he's...
Well, Huffy is now up to 8th in the championship, but he's 73.5, stays 8th, 73.5 points behind, because he only scored for 8th place, which in old money is 3 points, isn't it? Nothing in qualifying. Nesta Girolami took 1 for the team and dropped down the order to allow Nicky Katzberg to go by him at the line. It also allowed Ryo Michigami to go by him at the line, but that's neither here nor there. So here is the WTCC trophy Chilton easing away from Bernani. Bernani was the third actually, because El Aché in second place in the race was the second trophy finisher. Bernani scored for third, Kevin Gleeson for fourth. Rob Huff only got points for fifth place in the WTCC trophy battle. So Tom outscored him in that quite handily. And you're absolutely right, Matt, the way that the points and the races and the podiums have been spread around over so many drivers, it's very hard. I mean, much harder now than it has been in almost any season in the last 6 or 7 years to create an advantage or to hang on to any kind of an advantage.
Well, Ted Bjork does seem to be the coolest head of all of them. They're all sort of I'd say Michelitz is cool, but he's just getting involved in situations.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, he did well to come back through. 7th. He'll be disappointed with that, very disappointed. But
that last shot of the pit lane, just as you saw Tom Chilton running off to his team, just saw Ted Bjork getting stopped by Edward and a couple of the other guys from Honda. William de Breculaire, and a couple of guys from Honda to have a chat. A little bit of damage there in the front of Bjork's car.
William will never have a go at anybody. He's a charming guy. So
Bjork lost a mirror as well.
There's a
few scars of battle. Now Girolami will obviously want the car sorted out so that it's pointing in the right direction.
Just got him in front of the rear wheel there. Other looks.
Well, there's a couple of sort of side-by-side slaps, and when there's any kind of steering lock on, or even if there isn't, if you hit somebody, it can often derange the suspension a bit or bend the steering arm, and that's all it takes. There's only 15 minutes to get these things done and get the cars back out of the pit lane. You can then do further work on the grid, and that might be required if it needs a steering arm or a little more.
Which, to be fair, Martin, I think is a ridiculous rule. They need if the time needs to fix the cars, let's get the cars on the grid.
Okay, so Dario Desposito there with the headset on, bringing the two boys together and getting them to sort of agree. I don't think there was any malice in either. And you know, and they're both good racers. Ted's worrying because, you know, Guerrieri's not playing a part in the championship.
Well, Ted did go into him there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Ted, if anyone's seen any of the old Swedish touring car racing, they know he knows how to fight for a championship, and he doesn't mind rolling his sleeves up. But Guerrieri, he does have that Latin temperament, and he's a fighter.
Well, Bjork on the grass on the inside, so even in Formula One, that pass wouldn't have been allowed to stand if it had gone through.
Well, they're lucky they both got away with it. It could have cost either of them a good race position, but Bjork, valuable championship points. Yeah,
you know, if he'd scored 0 there, he'd still be 3.5 points ahead of Thiago, with Thiago absent for 3 races. And you know, that's the way that this championship is going. It is, every time you think, OK, we've got a handle on what's going to happen now, there's a spanner in the works somewhere, and
you've got to think if Thiago was here, he could have won this championship by now.
Yeah, right. Well, he'd probably have ended up off the road or having a drive-through penalty or an engine change or who knows what else. I mean, the fact that 2 of the 3 Volvos had drive-throughs, and the third one, you might suggest, was fortunate to escape without one. You know, not necessarily any of which were done with malice aforethought, but because it was wet and because they've got quick cars and the reverse grid, you know.
Yeah.
You're in a quick car in really, really slippery conditions behind slightly less quick cars. You know, the format in the dry is one thing, but when it's really low grip,
which is why
really low grip,
you know, you have to question. Now they're all nursing proper beaten up cars because the reverse grid is the first race. So this brings the question, should the reverse grid be the first race?
I always liked the way that we had it before, where you could earn promotion into the second race grid by getting into the top 8 or the top 10. If you'd had a horror in qualifying or an engine change.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, if you had an engine change, like the guys on the back of the grid, you know, you can earn yourself a better day.
You could work your way forward.
Yeah.
Now this thing where someone's on pole when they've qualified 10th.
Yeah. And my classic example always is Po, the race where Augusto Farfus, in qualifying, barrel rolled his BMW when he was 3rd fastest or so at the Foss chicane, put it on its roof, pirouetting like a top, and the boys rebuilt it overnight. He started on the back of the grid and drove his way through, got into 8th place, or wherever it was, got onto the front row, or, you know, top 3 or 4 spots for the second race, and ended up winning it. Now, you can't do that. It can't be done anymore. If you don't qualify, you can't drive yourself into a better position. And I don't agree with that. I don't agree with one issue in qualifying can leave you 16th for both races.
Oh, we saw a rather feisty conversation between you and Esteban. Can you just talk us through what happened and from your perspective as well?
Yeah, no, I can agree with Esteban. It was tough to go 2 cars through the corner, and when I hit the rubber, I lost my front grip and I touched him. So it was over the limit because I touched him, and I touched him back, so he went in the right direction. But no, it was tough. It was tough. Maybe a little bit too tough.
Well, there you go. I mean, he's always been a fairly straight-talking guy, and Guerreri as well. And he said, yeah, OK, mea culpa, I made that mistake. And he said, I shouldn't have hit him, and he's right. And, you know, Matt, sometimes, no matter how good a driver you are, you make mistakes. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a race. We'd just see who was the fastest driver last time out, and we'd all go home again.
Yeah, but then there's the other way of looking at it. Now he thinks he's got away with it. You hold your hands up, because the last person he wants to upset is a loose cannon on the other team.
This is a professional racing driver stroke cynic speaking here. Well, here's the first contact.
Now
that was Norby.
Yeah, that was
yeah.
Shouldn't have happened.
No. And that's
2 into there was never going to go. 1 had to back out.
You know, and the issue there with Norby, with things like that, is if you get tangled up in things like that, they can come back and haunt you. You've just got to, you know, you've got to race, and that's really difficult. And I don't know where the balance is drawn. And, you know, for every driver, you have to draw it yourself. Green flag waving. Pit lane is open now, so cars may head out to the grid at any stage. And I'm just going to head out of the booth. Talk amongst yourselves.
We heard a very disappointed Norby on the radios. Obviously, not the best situation with Nicky. Can you just talk us through what happened from your perspective?
Yeah, I think Nestor made a mistake. He went long, braking into turn 11. I had the momentum going around the outside. I left enough room on the inside, but then at one point I just felt a big hit, and I was very close to be stuck in the gravel. Fortunately, I managed to continue. Yeah, I scored some points, but really disappointed with how things are going. So if I'm honest with you, there are some drivers you don't really expect to get involved in the championship in a way. They did, but yeah, that's racing, I guess.
Strong words from you, Norby. What's it like out there? What are the racing conditions like? It looks pretty scary.
Yeah, it was difficult conditions, but I mean, the car was great. In the first race, I managed to do some good laps, just to check if everything's all right. And I expect tough, but yeah, successful second race. Of course, the main focus now is on the main race. Still starting from pole, it's a good possibility to score points. That's the target. Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Al. Now you can go away. I'm fed up of talking to you. I want to get on with something.
Well, it's
But starting from pole is not a given that you're going to win the race.
No.
I mean, Chilton did a great job getting away and making a break and getting some air and then getting his head down in that first one, but it's not a given. So Michelitz is still going to have to fight for this one.
Cars are heading out, those that have no battle scars to deal with, Daniel Nudge among them.
Rain's starting to come down again, Martin.
It is again, isn't it, actually, yeah. You can hear it, you can see it, and for those fortunates that are outside in the pit lane or on the grid walk, you can feel it. And actually, as Rob Huff pulls away, an entire sort of tea tray worth of rain just slops off the rear wing. Thiago Montero may be at home, had a bit of a lad's day out with his dad and his son yesterday, out in the sunshine, but I'm sure he would prefer to be here in the rain fighting for a championship. He is not out of this. If he does return for the remaining 2 race weekends in Macau and Qatar, then he will not be out of the championship equation necessarily. However, what was looking like a very successful season took a very major shudder in that testing incident in Catalonia. So I'm sure he's feeling still a little bit at 6s and 7s occasionally, and that's unfortunately one of the things that happens with modern racing cars, Matt, is that the soft contents are the most easily damaged part. And even if you don't make contact with roll cages or anything else, just a shuddering stop of a big crash.
You know, had that scenario in
so badly.
WRC a few years back, didn't they, when they were making the car stronger and stronger and stronger, and suddenly the thing that was not able to hold onto the accident in the accidents was the drivers and the co-driver inside.